second commendation tonight I have the pleasure of giving to Officer Joseph Laspina Jr. Officer Laspina on Friday, June 7th at 9:46 p.m. was on patrol near the intersection of North Morton Avenue and Locust Road. Officer Laspina determined through his observations that the vehicle in front of him, the passengers were using drugs. Officer Laspina stopped the vehicle in question and saw the operator had illegal drugs in his hand. The passenger fled the scene. After a brief foot pursuit, Officer Laspina was able to take him into custody. When Officer Laspina responded back to the scene and stopped, the other person had fled but was captured within minutes. As a result of these two arrests, 2 handguns and illegal narcotics were taken off the street, and the individuals involved were arrested and prosecuted in court. The proactive patrol technique of this officer demonstrated that the police are making the community safer for all. Actions such as this are exemplary display of your dedication and pride as a law enforcement officer and aid in the community, making it a safer place for our residents, and reflect on yourself and the entire police department. Notation of this commendation will become a part of your official record.
Come on up, Joe. Well, what the sergeant read to us all is just tremendous. You know, Joe, because of his actions, did not only take drugs out of this world, but also guns. And today's hot topic of guns, it's a job well done. Guns in the wrong hands. So thank you, Joe, for all your hard work.
I'd like to present the officer with bars that he's going to wear over his nameplate. It's a blue bar with a silver star. That's all we have for tonight. Next month, we will do 2 other officers. I apologize if they're unable to make it, but they have important business they have to tend to tonight.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor. All right, with that, we'll go on to number 6, approval of the monthly meeting minutes. July 2019, everyone should have received a copy of those minutes. Are there any questions on those minutes or corrections? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any noes? All right, that motion carries. Thank you. Next, number 7, approval of monthly bills. Everybody should be in receipt of a copy of the monthly bill list. Are there any questions on that monthly bill list? Hearing none at this time, is there a motion to approve the monthly bill list?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Are there any questions on the motion as it's been made? Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Semino?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Lillycrest?
Yes.
Mr. McGrath?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
And Mrs. Young?
Yes.
All right, that motion passes. Thank you. Go on to number 8, our committee reports, and start with A, Public Facilities and Infrastructure. Mrs. Miller, please.
Thank you. I don't have actually the reports in front of me. I do have some of the numbers here. The building inspector's report for July of 2019, we issued 17 building permits, 5 use and occupancy certificates were issued, and 5 contractors' licenses. Number 2 on the list is a motion to receive the bids that we received for the 2019 road program. We received those bids on August 1st, and we need an authorization to rebid the project with the revised street list. I'll have Mr. Poole explain why we need to do this.
Yeah, just briefly, and we discussed most of this last week, but the bid as it was put out was actually with the complete list for the streets that we thought needed repaired and was not whittled down for what our budgetary constraints were. So once we got those bids back in, we determined that obviously we weren't going to be able to do all of those, So based on what budgetary figure we had, we are going to have to cut the program, so we wanted to make sure that we were covered in all aspects. If we did narrow down the program, and we did get word from PennDOT that if we were going to do what we wanted to do, we should rebid just because the quantities were so large with the first bid that we put out, that they would be sufficiently different from what we're putting out in this second round. So that's what tonight, it's basically just deciding on those streets, which we had kind of discussed briefly last week, to come into a range of about $35,000 worth of work, and then rebid based on those figures.
So I had sent an email after the meeting last week to the members that were not in attendance, with the list of the streets and the detailed streets that we had suggested would fit into our budget. So what we'll have to do is rebid this. And unless there's any problem with it, if anybody has on council has a question or change.
I have a question, Madam Chair.
Then we can discuss your question now. Mr.
You had mentioned 35,000, and I know I had carried up about 25. Is it possible to include Newell Street number 4 and Maple Street number 5?
Actually, what I had recommended last week was doing the first three, which would be Harding, Maple,
Right.
and Newell, and then also adding the second Newell just to complete the street, because that would put us into that range, correct? So that was the recommendation I made last week.
And then he's asking to add on,
Well, you got Maple, it's $4,246.
Yeah, and that's I had that in the alternative. if the council wishes to do that.
33,562.
Yeah.
I didn't know if you want to get that close to 35, but.
Yeah, and that's what I said, that's really, we can hit that 35, so that's what, if you want to do that, I have that as the alternate for that last one, the application streets.
either those 4 or the 5th one, if we have the money. If not, and then we'll do the others next year. Is the plan, but we'll decide that next week. And then, so we need to make up some, can I make the motion to rescind the bids, or does someone else?
You can.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to receive the bids that have previously been made for the 2019 road program as received on August 1st, 2019. And additionally with an authorization to rebid the project with the revised street list.
Second.
Okay, that revised street list is as Mr. Poole just described.
Yeah, that would be the Harding, Maple, and both of Newell, and then with the alternate of Maple Street.
Yes.
Any other questions on the motions that's been made?
Wait,
No.
yes. Which of the additional Maple Streets? Because Maple Street's not listed again.
Oh, I'm sorry,
The
the last
bottom
one,
one.
which
The
would be the
last one,
4,200,
yes.
right, because that would fit within the budget.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Semino?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Lillycrop?
Yes.
Mr. McGrath?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
And Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Motion carries. Mrs. Miller?
Then last on the list is we need a motion to re-advertise the CDBG fund, the grant for the community center improvements, which is the air conditioning for the gym and the updating of the bathrooms for ADA compliance. The previous bids came in incomplete and way over budget, and so Mr. Catania said we needed to rebid these. So I'd like to make that motion to re-advertise for the CDBG funded community center improvements project.
Second.
In other words, revised the bid?
The bid
You
came,
put the same bid out with this decision, in other words, you took the bid and bid? Or have you changed the specs?
Bathroom section has remained the same. The air conditioned HVAC for the gym, we're cutting back.
and they also, the bids came in sort of incomplete. There were only 2 bids, and we'd like to get more anyway. So, again, anybody second the motion?
Second.
Mrs. Young had seconded the motion. Mr. Catania, how, in what way are we truncating the air conditioning?
We're moving the unit itself, and we're putting an alternate in there. Instead of putting 1 unit in, to provide 2 smaller units.
Okay.
To provide the same amount of.
Do Do you believe it'll be adequate though without overtaxing the unit on a regular basis?
Yes. When we received the bids previously, I called the contractor, because I only had a bid, so I called that contractor to find out why it was so high. And he felt that, in his opinion, that he could provide us a better price if he could provide 2 smaller units, and then all the ductwork becomes smaller in size, and he thought he'd get us a better price. So I spoke to the mechanical consultant who kind of didn't agree with him, so we decided to put it out as kind of optional either way. As long as we get the cooling that we were looking for, I don't think it matters to us.
Any other questions on the motion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Semino?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Lillycraft? Mr. McGrath?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
And Mrs. Young?
Yes.
All right, that motion carries. Thank you. Mrs. Miller,
And
anything else?
unless anyone has any questions for me, then that's all that I have to report right now.
Okay, thank
Administration tax collector report for July 2019. I recognize the tax collector, please.
Good evening. My name is tax collector. Beginning of the month is $128,821.14. Total collectible is $128,821.14. The less collection for the month is a negative $3,244.48. Balance collectible at the end of the month is $125,576.66. Base amount is $3,244.48. Penalties is $324.45. Total cash collected is $3,568.93. There is an interim, which is $34.05. Any questions?
Sewer fees, current. Month to date, we had $4,950.10 for a year to date of $312,531.79, which is 45.7% of the budget. And that's about right on, just to let you know, because we just put out our third quarter bill. So, yeah. Sewer bills, prior years, month to date is $380.65. Year to date, $34,385.80 for a 110.9% of budget. And then sewer fees delinquent, we had $2,861.17 for year to date of $47,777.30, which is 144.8% of the total budget. For trash, current trash collections, $3,036.51 for the month, which brings a year to date to $157,565.27, which is 93.5% of the budget. Trash collection prior is $218.35 for the month and $6,441.51 for a year to date, which is 85.9% of the budget. And finally, the delinquents for the trash month to date was $7,389.92. Year to date is $18,656.80 or 150.5% of the total budget. And then finally, Tax Claim Bureau, which is the delinquent taxes sent to the county for collection. Month to date is $6,048.12. Year to date is $38,577.92, which is current percentage of budget about 58.5%. And that's the report for July.
Council, you'll see attached there to your budget, review at your leisure. Beginning in September, on the third and fourth Wednesday, we'll start the 2020 budget meeting. We'll get the exact date that day by way of email. I have no other business or finance.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lillycraft. Mr. Ewald has advised me that we have a presentation by an attorney, and I'm going to.
There's not a presentation, but it's just,
Yeah, we have a time constraint on the attorney's part, and we need to take up Parks and Recreation at this time, so I will move that from G to next move. So I will get to the mayor.
Parks and Recreation.
Yes.
Our Parks and Recreation have been running the Morton Borough Phillies night game, and we are happy to say we're sold out. So we have 50 tickets, and 50 happy people will go into the game. There are no tickets left.
Yay.
The only other thing I have to say is that we are having a cool-off with a cop as part of our peace program. And it's going to be an ice cream event at Jacobs Park on the 22nd of August at 6:30. And this is just outreach to the community to show that police officers are there to help you. Right? So that's cool-off with the cops. And that's all.
What time is that, sir?
6:30 on the 22nd.
Okay, and we're going to take up, you'll see project options for the Delco Greenway Grant Program under Parks and Recreation. I would note that Mr. McGrath has left the meeting to avoid any potential appearance of a conflict of interest, as I understand it. And with that, I will turn it over to Solicitor Ewald.
So this is an opportunity that arose in the past few weeks that we wanted to bring before council. Mr. McGrath has recused himself from this because it involves his personal property. The opportunity is that the Delaware County Planning Commission has announced a Greenway Grant Program that has a very short timetable, and the grant program was created in order to help municipalities with certain things, and we noticed that that there was a potential opportunity in Morton that was very in line with what their grant is. Their grant likes programs that expand a park. The grant likes programs that protect land that is under threat of development. The grant likes programs that are in communities that are CDBG eligible and that preserve woodland. And in many ways, when they were describing the grant, it just seemed that it was meant for projects like this. And what the opportunity would be Morton, we're looking for direction from council as to whether you would be interested in submitting an application to the county for the purchase of a portion of the McGrath property to add it on to Sycamore Woods and the Borough Park. It is a property that is being considered for subdivision and development, and this would preserve 11,000 square feet of woodland that's directly adjacent to your woods and to your park. As I mentioned, it's a very short timetable, so we would need direction from council tonight as to whether you want staff to proceed with an application. The applications are due September 9th, so we would need the staff to get an appraisal and come up with all the documents that are required in just a few short weeks. And then if you were to approve it in September, you would have to enact a resolution, and we would submit it after the September agenda meeting. We can't wait until the legislative meeting. So at this point, we're really just looking, is this something that you're interested in pursuing? And if so, then we need direction to submit to prepare the application for submission in September. The cost to the borough would be in the nature of about $6,000. We don't know what the property will appraise for, so that's one big factor. But the other factor is that it has to be pitched to the county as part of our greater project that we're doing this year of enhancing our parkland and our recreational facilities. And with the caps on funding, the maximum we can get in this would be somewhere in the nature of $50,000, and we have an obligation to provide a 10% match. So in the event that we were to get the grant, the borough would be responsible for somewhere in the nature of $5,000 to $7,000.
You said we would have an appraisal before the September agenda meeting, before we
Correct.
voted on the actual application.
We should have basically the whole application available at that time, and then it would be under council's consideration to actually submit that.
But it is gonna take, you know,
Yeah.
a significant amount of work on behalf of your borough manager, and, you know, so they do need the full month lead time.
Essentially, you'd be preserving the area as it is, in a wooded state, and
Yeah, part of the requirement is that it has to be deed restricted after after it's done. So that 1,100 square feet would be preserved as open space forever. 11,000, yeah, which is a significant improvement to your Sycamore Woods. Your Sycamore Woods is about 45,000 square feet. So it's a 25% increase to the size of the woods. You're already working on building trails through it. It could provide for some additional trail space connecting the woods more to Borough Hall, and in that it's closer to the gym and the tot lot, and
so you can conserve it and also, if you will, develop it within the natural state for trail.
you could put trail. Yeah, it can be used recreationally.
So that is part of it.
Yeah.
Does this in any way conflict with the plan we've already had for this area? Because I know that there was money contingent upon the plan somewhere.
No, so this is really contingent upon being an improvement to that plan. So that plan is still going forward, and this would be an enhancement.
Would the borough be required to fence the perimeter? No.
Not that, there's no requirement in the grant that it would be granted. There would be certain things that would be required, such as we would have to go through a lot line change, like a subdivision program to realign the boundaries of, the legal boundaries of the property. And that might include putting pins in or something like that, but that can be done internally by our engineer, and the money spent on that would go towards your 10% match. So, you have to spend a 10% match anyway. That cost would be a part of it.
So looking at the drawing here, it starts on Sycamore and goes straight back to the L formation, the darker green.
Right.
So it's on Sycamore, then goes back to the corner here, next to the police station, behind the maintenance building.
Right.
And that includes Mrs. Roberts, the firms that are, which is a wonderful, there's a beautiful, enormous fern bed that's lovely. That would be enclosed in the park, or the parkland.
Other questions, comments?
And you have 3 years to implement after grant's approved, if it's approved. So you would be able to budget this next year, or I don't know if we probably have 6.
Well, I mean, if we had to, but like you said, I mean, the intent would be at least to move it into next year, right? So we'd be fine.
And the great news is that you would know in 2 months. They're accepting the applications until September 9th, and they're making their decision by the 3rd week in October. I think it's October 17th.
It's whatever the council meeting, I think
Yeah.
it is, whatever. Yeah, no, it is. I think it's in conjunction with the council meeting.
Yeah, so unlike a lot of these grants where we have to wait forever, this one you'll know right away.
But I understand that $50,000 would be what we would get from this grant, minus whatever payment we had made with the borough.
Yeah, it depends a little bit on what the appraisal comes in at. So if the appraisal comes in lower than that, then we would probably change our application, although in theory we could add something like street tree plantings or something like that if we wanted to, but I don't know that we would want to complicate it too much.
And those are the things that we have to work out, just as we move along, because like it is, with that condensed period, we don't have much time. So as those questions come up, they're going to have to get answered right away.
Charles, Mr. Catani, do you see anything, any problems going forward with our present plan for improvement?
What fund would we need in this fiscal year? Any for that application?
Probably not. I mean, that's what we're counting on. We're counting on everything at least being moved into next year, you know, because as the solicitor said, I think it's either a 2 or 3 year period where you have to at least get the project done, so you have that time frame on the other end, so you're not pressed to get it done now.
Well, I think being that it's contiguous with the existing very limited area of open space that the borough has, you know, I would be in favor of the project. Any other comments? If not, we'd be looking for a motion. It's a pleasure.
No, we'll be looking for a motion to direct
We're going to do that this evening.
your staff to prepare the application for submittal in September.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any questions on the motion as it's been made? Let's a roll call vote, please.
Mr. Savino?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Lillicrap?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
And Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mr. McGrath is abstaining. Duly.
All right. Motion carries. Thank you. And I believe there's no other business under Parks and Recreation. Okay. Mr. McGrath is rejoining council for the rest of the meeting. And we will move on to C, Public Safety. In Mr. Miller's absence, the mayor will present the police department report.
Absolutely, thank you, Mayor. Calls for service for the police department this month. We had 370 calls, and I'll highlight the most numerous one for suspicious persons, auto circumstances, 15 calls for that. 25 hazardous conditions, 16 medical emergencies, 14 traffic and parking problems, 29 traffic and enforcement warnings, 12 building checks, whether people on vacation or the houses were vacant, 21 public service notifications, 11 assist other agencies, other police departments, and 44 traffic citations. And are there any questions on the police? All right. Hearing none, I'd like to ask the fire department representative to come up and give us a report on the fire department.
Good evening, Council. Our monthly report for the month of July 2019, company responded to 30 incidents. Company was in service for 11 hours, 39 minutes. Total response personnel was 100 for a total personnel hours of 35 hours and 59 minutes. We had a high response of 11 people and an average response of 3 people. The incidents for the month consisted of 1 building fire, 1 dumpster fire, 1 natural gas leak outside, 3 wire transformer calls. 1 of them was during the duty engine time period, 3 ambulance assists, 18 assists to Swarthmore, 6 automatic fire alarms, 3 motor vehicle accidents with injuries, 1 EMS assist, 2 investigations, and 1 building fire for a wires transformer, and 1 natural gas leak outside. Why you repeated that, I'm not sure. We had 2 assists to Springfield for 2 building fires, and 1 assist to Brookhaven Fire Company for a natural gas leak, again, part of the duty engine. The company had 1 training drill attended by 10 members for a total time in service of 1 hour, 45 minutes, and total personnel hours of 17 hours and 30 minutes. Again, there was 4 duty engine assignments that we were in service for 16 hours for, and crew man hours of 80 hours. 3 other details for 16 hours, for a total of 75 man-hours attended by 19 personnel. This is respectfully submitted to Chief Don Holstein. Any questions on that?
Thank you very much.
Just one couple thing I'd like to present. We closed out last year's fund drive. Over the years, we've progressively gone up a little bit. This year, we took a slight dip. Last year was one of the highest years that we had, where we took in $20,689.35 for the total for the year in 2017, with a participation percentage of 22.28% of the residents that we mailed out to responded back. That was the highest in the last 3 years, dollar-wise and return percentage. This year, we took a slight drop, down to 20.95% of the response, for a total dollar amount of $20,435. So we definitely need to work on that, and we're getting ready to start 2019's fund drive, which will be coming out in October for Fire Prevention Week, which is also Morton Community Day, that we'll be having the events over at the firehouse for. So we're going to work on that, and hopefully we'll present you with something in some way. Maybe you guys can help us a little bit. Publicizing this fund drive, and so that we can try and bolster those numbers up a little bit better. The other thing is, in the up and coming weeks, we have the Rutledge Yard Sale is the week after Labor Day, the Saturday after Labor Day, where we'll be providing food and refreshments at the old station over in Rutledge. So anybody that's in that direction, please feel free to stop by Rutledge, rummage around in their community yard sale, stop by the firehouse. We'll have food and refreshments there. Yes, ma'am.
Question, can residents of Morton participate, set up booths or anything? Sell their,
I really don't know how Rutledge works that.
I'll reach out to them.
If they have something they'd like to do, yeah, I would reach out to their federal office to see if they have any provisions for out-of-town people.
Because I know a lot of our residents have asked for community-wide yard sale also. So maybe it's something we can do.
Absolutely. I would recommend contacting their council to see what they can do. The other thing that we do next month is our annual, this will be our 16th annual horseshoe tournament. It's usually the second weekend after Labor Day weekend. This year we moved it back to the end of the month. Unfortunately, for the years that we've been running it, it coincides with New Jersey State Fire Convention in Wildwood. And we generally lose a lot of local fire companies to that event. So this year we decided to try and bump it back a couple weeks, see if we can get some more inter-county competition amongst the fire companies as far as participation.
At the end of August, you bump it back to the end of September?
The end of September. That'll be the last Saturday in September. All right?
Any of these fundraising things or activities you have, if you could provide us with a sheet of paper with that information and give it to Mr. Poole, whatever, he put it in my mailbox or Mr. McGrath's, and then that way we can get it on the website, and get it on our Facebook page and everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah, with any details.
Or email.
Or email, yeah.
Yeah, or email.
We'll start, and actually what we'll do is we'll start anything coming up for the next month. I will make sure that we have it here prior to the previous month's council meeting, and then.
Whatever, it doesn't matter about the council meeting, any time to
Right,
get it.
but again, we can make the announcement, and I can make sure you have it
Right.
for the next month.
Yeah,
so.
because you also had mentioned at some point you're going to do a spaghetti dinner.
Yes, yes, and that's in the planning stage. So we haven't set a date or anything of that.
We're glad to list anything, but we can't list it if we
if you don't have the info.
Details, right.
Exactly. So, but what I'll do is I'll try and get it to you by the council meeting for the previous month. This gives us plenty of time to advertise it. So, all
Very
right?
good.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to finish up the public safety report, we're looking for a motion to advertise.
We need council to do that, so I'm gonna move that to,
Okay.
we're gonna need, I'm gonna move that to law and ordinance.
Okay.
Chief Ospina, did you have anything to add?
No, just touch with the mayor, we'll cool off with a cop initiative. That's part of our community policing. We're having Mr. Softy truck there. So it should be a good event.
I had a question for the chief. I'm not sure really whether it comes under me or public safety or what. We talked about Bridge Street last week and a parking problem.
Yes,
Has, I don't know what would have come up since last week.
nothing.
Okay.
No changes, nothing. I haven't heard anything from any residents and.
Well, I did hear from a resident who couldn't be here this evening, and I just said, I would see if there was anything that, I didn't know what any changes would have happened in the past week or.
No, there's been no changes. My recommendation to council was to amend the ordinance, the current ordinance we have in the books.
Right. Okay, thank you.
To make it residential, is that what?
To make it between the hours of 7 and 10, the ordinance we currently have.
And so we're not talking at all about doing any
And-
parking permits or guest passes?
Yeah, if the ordinance is, I'm sure you all correct, it's a resident parking, you have to be a resident in order to obtain a permit, and parking would be between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. that this permit, we would need this permit for. After that, anybody can park at that location.
7 a.m. and 10 p.m. or 7
Oh,
a.m.?
I'm sorry, yeah,
7, 8 to
So,
10.
correct.
but
It's the current ordinance we have in the books for Walnut Street.
So, Mr. Ewald, you did some research, I believe, and you indicated we're not limited to a particular set of hours. We can, if it's council's pleasure, enact resident-only parking that would cover all hours.
You could, yeah.
Okay.
And that was part of the complaint we had before, was resident parking, was the apartment building. There's a residence.
Right.
And that was part of the problem, that the complaint was that not only are commuters parking there, but people from the apartment building. So I believe they are residents.
We have no ability to affect that, correct? If they're residents.
I mean, that would be a more difficult thing to sort out. I mean, in Philadelphia, they've zoned parking, so you would get residents parking for, based on where you live and what zone you're in. There's other ways to do it. I guess you'd have to decide whether you wanted to put that, burden, or you would want to, how you would want to regulate that.
Isn't that what the permits are for?
I'm sorry?
Isn't that what permits are for? It's gonna be for the residents, they would get
That's
permits,
correct.
right?
So, but any resident could apply for a permit, is that?
I mean, the way the ordinance is written up, the street and adjacent streets.
Yes.
Also on public safety, Mr. Lillycraft just handed me a note. He wanted me to express, and I think the chief stated this a couple times, that we met with Frank Urso, the owner of UTC at 501 Highland Avenue, and he has put some steps into place to make sure that the trucks that are making deliveries to UTC follow the map correctly and do not use the streets that we do not wish them to use. So I want to thank Mr. Lillycraft for meeting, and also the chief for meeting with Mr. Urso, who is a really nice guy and really will do whatever he can to make the problem go away.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Well, I don't think we're ready to go in any particular direction on a permanent solution for the street parking issue. I would like to refer this issue to the, I think it would be most appropriate in the Public Facilities and Infrastructure Committee. That item to your committee,
I what about my committee?
to bring the issue of the, that we've been requested to review by residents on the Bridge Street parking situation.
Guess we could, whether it's us or public safety.
No, I don't know that parking necessarily, I mean, it could come under either, which, but in Mr. Miller's absence tonight.
Sure. I'll discuss it more with the chief.
Yeah. And how long do we have on the temporary,
90 days.
restriction?
Yeah, we don't have anything in place that says how long until we can resolve the problem.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, by the way, we're going to be, that's kind of connected to the DDRTC Safe Routes and Transit program too.
Right, but I don't want to just defer to that because it's going to take too long.
Well, I think most importantly, that something's in place now, as I said last week, is the college students come back, people come back from vacation, that the trains will get more crowded, and those poor folks can't park on their own street because the commuters are parking there, so, at least right now, we have something in place for them, and we'll, try to come to a more permanent solution.
All right, so you'll discuss the possibilities with Mr. Ewald and the chief. And,
Yes.
We will, Mr. will put this on the agenda for the agenda meeting for next month. Anyone have any other questions on comments or comments on that item? All right, anyone have anything else on public safety? Hearing none, we'll go to D, Public Health, Sanitation, and Recycling. Mrs. Roberts, please.
Yes, good evening. I'd like to make my reports concerning the trash and the recycling for the month of July, being July 1st to July 31st. There were 12 pickups for trash, and the tonnage was 106.04 for the month of July. For the recycling, there were 4 pickups, and the tonnage was 13.8. And with that said, going on to sewer, the third quarterly sewer bills were just mailed out this week. And I believe your next current date for the expire date is sometime in September. I don't know it off the top of my head. But that's your third quarterly sewer bill. Also, I'd like to bring to the committee and being on the recycling committee that we will have a meeting for next month as well, as we confirm and finalize our letters that will go out to the residents concerning the recycling containers. So we will formally receive an email that will come together and discuss the letter that'll go out. And also we have to also discuss the bids as far as the recycling, if we want to retain the present contract that we have with B&L Disposal. Okay, if there's
That's good. You're gonna.
yes, I'm gonna give you an email with the dates.
Later. Yeah,
Yes.
okay, great.
Okay, to the committee members.
Right.
Okay. Is there any residents that's in the audience tonight? If you haven't received your container, and if you'd like to have a container before you leave, please wait for me and I'd be gladly give you your recycling container. If there's no other questions or concerns from me, that would end my report.
All right, thank you. Go on to E, Law and Ordinance. Mrs. Young, please.
Good evening. So there are 3 ordinances now under my heading here, and so I'm just going to go in number order for the ordinance number. So the first ordinance that we're going to discuss is 760, which is ordinance to amend Chapter 15, Part 4 of the Borough Code to prohibit parking in certain areas. Mr. Ewald, do you want to speak any further to that?
So this is the ordinance that we put in place to try and protect the corners and turning radiuses regarding certain intersections. It was advertised and is ready for council to consider. At this point, we would open a hearing on ordinance number 760. Is there anyone who wishes to present testimony or comment on ordinance 760? Seeing none, we'll close the hearing. This ordinance sets forth that it would be illegal to park on Bridge Street for 20 feet west from Taylor Avenue. And that just keeps people from parking on that soft corner. Highland Avenue, 130 feet west from Alpha Terrace, there's been temporary signs up here lately. And Highland Avenue, 40 feet south from Providence Road, which would be up here at the intersection, coming 40 feet. That is the extent of what it does. And at this point, you'd be looking for a motion to approve and adopt ordinance 260.
I'll second.
All right, I believe there's been a motion and a second. Any questions on the motion as has been made? Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Semino?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Lillicrap?
Yes.
Mr. McGrath?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
And Mrs. Young?
Yes.
That motion carries. Mrs. Young?
So the next ordinance is 761, and it's an ordinance to amend the provision of the Morton Borough Code for the purpose of regulating the use of dumpsters and portable storage containers. We discussed this one at length, but Mr. Ewald, if you have any additional comments with regard to this
Yeah,
one.
I mean, this is the one that we've talked about the longest. I think it deals with the personal storage units, which are those boxes you sometimes see that are people using instead of moving companies or moving trucks. And it also regulates temporary dumpsters, such as what you would see when someone's renovating a property. It creates a permitting requirement for it, regulates where they can be, and sets forth the basic requirements of their use. This has been advertised for your consideration and enactment tonight. At this point, we would open a public hearing on ordinance number 761. Is there anyone from the public who wishes to present testimony, evidence, or comment? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, and you'd be looking for a motion to adopt ordinance 761.
So moved. All right, there's been a motion and a second. Are there any questions on the motion as it's been made? Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Semino?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Lillicrap?
Yes.
Mr. McGrath?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
And Mrs. Young?
Yes.
That motion carries. Mrs. Young?
All right, and the final motion is the one that's coming over from the public safety portion of the agenda, and it's the ordinance 762, which is an ordinance to amend Chapter 15, Part 1 of the Morton Borough Code to institute fees for the release of vehicles after impounded after an arrest. This one I also believe has been discussed to some extent before, but Mr. Ewald, if you have any comments.
Yeah, so this one's not for consideration tonight. It has not been advertised. We're actually looking for your direction to advertise it for the September meeting. It was brought to the attention of council by the police chief that significant time was being expended by officers in verifying that vehicles that have been towed after an arrest, I think DUI or something like that, that then need to be released. It requires a police officer to go through and make sure that the registration's current, make sure that the insurance is current, and make sure the person taking it is authorized to take that vehicle. So that requires us to have an officer off the street for a certain amount of time doing this work, and we're looking to institute a fee so that the police department's reimbursed for it. The suggested fee is $20, and that would be subject to amendment from time to time by the resolution of Borough Council. So at this point, you'd be looking for a motion to advertise ordinance number 762.
I'll make the motion to advertise ordinance 762, which amends chapter 15.1 of the Borough Code to institute fees for the release of vehicles impounded after arrest.
Is there a second? Motion's been made and seconded. Are there any questions on the motion as it's been made? Hearing none, can we have a roll call, please?
Mr. Semino?
Yes.
Mrs. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Lillicrap?
Yes.
Mr. McGrath?
Yes.
Mrs. Roberts?
Yes.
And Mrs. Young?
Yes,
All right, that motion carries.
that concludes my
All right, thank you. Community and Economic Development, Mr. McGrath, please.
Hello, everybody. I guess we can start with what's on the list first, and then I'll get into the, Ms. Poole, could you give us an update on what's going on here with the DVRCP Safe Routes and Transit Steering Committee?
Well, yeah, last week we had discussed that, and that's what there was going to be a time period where council was going to consider what they wanted to do as far as the makeup of that committee. So I don't know whether anybody has any further comments, because I had mentioned that with the Morton Connects, we had the Community Development Committee, Borough Manager, Borough Secretary, a Morton resident, the Chief of Police, and then the engineer were part of that original committee. So it's up to council's pleasure as to how they want to populate this committee.
Read that list again, please.
Yeah, it was the Community Development Committee, so it was the 3 members of the Community Development Committee, the manager, the secretary, borough resident, the police chief, and the engineer. And that was just to get started, and then we added as we went along, depending on what we were going through, type of thing, so.
We haven't had we're going to be having a meeting, a committee meeting soon, so we can clarify that and come up with a final recommendation.
All right, well, when would we need to let them know the members by?
Well, we were told that they were going to try and schedule something towards the end of September, because they're doing their preliminary work now on it, so that's what, so that's what we know now.
All right, so for the September meeting, the committee will try and identify a resident that they want to serve.
Yes. It'll be based on that. That worked very well before. That was basically.
The meeting will be held in the borough?
Pardon?
Meeting will be held here at the borough?
Yeah. Same sort of thing. I'll send emails out. Thank you.
Anything else?
Yes, and as a matter of fact, the other thing we'll be talking about at the meeting is the Morton Day celebration, which is coming up. We have arranged, we're working on the details for a beer garden, which will include beef and pork. We've started lining up the bands, and so we'll probably need to work on the details, the legal details of the beer garden, which we'll have to. So we'll have that for the September meeting, so we can clarify all that.
Anything else?
No, that's it. That's it for now.
Thank you. We did Parks and Recreation. Are there any planning or
No
zoning
planning or
applications?
zoning, no.
All right, is there any old business from members of council? New business from members of council?
I just noticed that there's a town hall, I think, coming up at DCIU with regard to gun safety. Hang on 1 second.
I think it's next Tuesday.
It's Tuesday, August 20th, 7 to 8:30 at the DCIU location on 200 Yale in Morton. And it looks like it's being run by Senator Tim Kearney, and I believe Jennifer O'Mara is part of it, and a number of other, looks like people and like organizations. So,
What's the date on that and the time again?
it was, hold on. Tuesday, August 20th at 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. at DCIU.
Any other new business from members of council? Hearing none, we'll go to open discussion. Anyone from the public wish to address council? Mr. Lee first, please.
Michael Lee, 123 West Sylvan Avenue. Good evening, everyone. The if you want to pay your third quarter sewer bill with the discount, the date has to be paid by is September the 16th. But the main topic I want to bring to everyone's discussion, if you still have a copy of this past Monday's August the 12th issue of the Daily Times, there's a very interesting letter to the editor in there from a woman named Susan Story, who says she's the president and chief executive officer of American Water Resources. She sent a letter to Delcora asking Delcora to discuss with them the option of having American Water Resources purchase Delcora, claiming that they can get a better deal for all concerned if Delcora goes with them. I don't know why all of a sudden there's all this interest in wanting to purchase Delcora. I have an idea, but that's all it is. It's just a suspicion. But I think I'm old enough to remember when the telephone company was broken up in 1984. It used to be Bell Telephone Company or its parent company AT&T, and it was broken up. One month I remember my phone bill was $12. The next month, 1 month afterwards, went up to $35, and the claim, which I knew that we were going to get the shaft because they claimed, well, we break up, you'll get even cheaper rates. That turned out to be a lie. I'm figuring the same thing, that no matter if Delcora falls into private hands, the only one that's going to benefit is management. Ratepayers will get the shaft, employees will lose their jobs. That's how I'm looking at it. Anybody who claims that we're going to save you money, I remember the old Native Americans saying, white man speak with fork and tongue. That's how I look at it. But I want to bring that to everybody's attention. If you still have that issue, you could bring it to, just I think it's around page 20 or 21. It's around, you look in your index for opinion, that's where you'll find the letters to the editor, and read it. It's very interesting, and just draw your own conclusions. And in light of what's going on in the world today, especially here in America, I came across this quote not too long ago by the late American broadcast journalist David Brinkley. If those of you who are of a certain age like I am, you might remember Mr. Brinkley from his evening report with his co-host, the late Chet Huntley, the Huntley-Brinkley report, which was on the NBC. Numerous politicians have seized absolute power and muzzled the press. Never in history has the press seized absolute power and muzzled the politicians. So I kind of miss, when I was younger, I always swore I would never sound like the old people who longed for the old days. Yet here I am. So for all you younger folks out there, just remember that. I know there's a lot of you, especially the teenagers. I'm never going to sound like my parents. I'm never going to sound like the old. I'm never going to sound like those old geezers. Just wait your turn. You'll get to the point, and when one day you'll realize if you speak, your father's voice and your mother's voice are coming out. So with that being said, unless anybody has any questions for me.
I have a comment sheet, Mr. Lee.
Sure.
Either Mr. Huntley or Brinkley, were one of them from Swarthmore? Or is that, I didn't live here then, but
I don't know. I don't know. I do remember it. I do remember reading once at the time she died that Joan Mondale, who was the wife of the late wife of former Vice President Walter Mondale, she was from Nether Providence. I'm really not sure. I'm gonna have.
I don't know why I think that in my head, but I wanted to mention to you too. I did go to the Stormwater Collaborative meeting and brought up that a resident asked about stormwater buying Delcora. It did come up some laughter because they don't have nearly the kind of money involved, but there were comments about how they were wondering if perhaps Aqua should be broken up or water should be privatized. That there were different comments made because everyone was saying how much their water bill's gone up over the last couple of years.
I actually think the time has come that we need a true trust buster like Theodore Roosevelt was. He actually helped break up the Standard Oil Company and the trust companies of his day, which was one reason he was absolutely hated by them. They figured since he came from the wealthy class that he should be on their side, and they couldn't understand why he opposed them. In fact, it was the Theodore Roosevelt who actually pushed to help get the labor movement started. And he once said that in a meeting with the management of, I believe it was the coal companies and the union members, he said the only one there besides myself who had any good manners, it was the union president.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
Just a point of clarification, actually, it was Dave Garraway of the Today Show that did Square Work.
Thank you.
Committed suicide in 1982.
I remember reading about that. So,
That's how I found out he lived in Square.
so thank you for listening. Good night. May God bless all of you.
Mrs. Hodges.
I had a question for clarity. I raised my hand. I think you all missed it. In terms of
Name and address for the
I'm
record.
sorry, Eileen Hodgman, 231 Walnut Street. Do I have to get up? I was just trying to find out from you, the DVRPC Safe Routes to Transit Steering Committee, if you could just explain a little bit what the DVRPC is, because I heard you mention Morton Connects, and also just clarity when you said about you're going to discuss it at the committee meeting. Were you talking about the steering or the community and economic
I'm
development?
talking about the steering committee.
The steering.
The Community and Economic Development Committee needs to recommend a resident to participate in the steering committee.
Are you interested?
I just wanted to know about what the DVRPC.
Delaware Valley Regional Planning.
Sounds good.
They've been
All right.
around forever.
Thank you. And my other question was, when is the Community and Economic Development meeting? Committee
Within
meeting?
the next week or so.
Okay.
I'll talk to you after the meeting. Okay.
We'll put it on the website.
Yeah.
Mr. Stubbs?
Wolf Stubbs, 19 Harding Avenue, Morton. I live at 19 Harding Avenue. I'm just concerned about the community becoming a parking lot. Every street is 2.3 cars to a house nowadays. On my block, on the corner, there's Mr. Wells' house, and then from Morton Avenue to Harding Avenue to Vaughn Street, it's my house. They've been repairing this one house a block up for the last year. I've been having, when the rain comes, a lot of the nails that they leave out there come down and flat my tires. Ambrose's house across the street, yard is a wreck. They just sold it, I think they just sold it. There's gonna be contractors working on that house. My wife is going blind in one eye. She called up here requesting a sign for handicap parking. She said that she has to go through something to get to something. I want to know what path does she have to take to get this handicap sign? So those contractors, when they park their vehicles like they've been parking, corner to corner, corner to corner. I come home from work at 4 o'clock, 3:30, I can't park in front of my house. I need to know residential parking, is that going to be brought back? Are there going to be parking meters put?
Driveway, sir?
Excuse me?
Do you have a driveway?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, okay.
I got 2 cars too.
Yeah, okay. No, I was just saying you do have a driveway though also.
So what does that mean though?
Oh, no, I'm just saying.
Why'd you
have
ask?
a driveway.
Why did you
Because
ask?
A lot of people don't have driveways anymore, that's all.
I'm not even,
So, Mr. Stubbs,
Yes,
to
sir.
answer your question, all you need to do is come here to the borough office
okay,
and pick up a application for the handicap parking.
okay,
And at that point, fill it out, bring the proper documentation. Myself, the code officer, and the fire chief will review it, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
because Mrs. Ambrose, her disabled sign, she doesn't live there anymore. That sign's still there.
I took 2 signs down last week.
Last week?
Both of the signs that were on that block have been removed because
Okay.
I did find that those people no longer live there.
No longer live
And they
there.
have been removed. That was 2 more spots that are open.
2 more spots, but in consideration, when, I don't know, Morton is growing, and that's a good thing, I guess, but these streets, we need to find a way to residentialize them again, as we used to be back in the day, when Mr. Used to go around with his bucket and sweeping the sidewalks off and stuff. And everything. I don't know how many people remember him. Mr. Wood, Mr.
Mr. Bookie. But the town's getting big, and I mean, you got parking on Maple Avenue up there behind the check cashing place. You got apartments being put up there. Who's gonna be able to park there? Who's gonna be able to park there and go across the street to the businesses? That's phenomenal right now. They're parking in front of that catering place again. When I was on council, I wanted that guy not to be able to park his trucks on that corner because people gotta walk around and put themselves on death row because of the trucks that come by and cars that go by. Now he's parking again. Are the businesses running the township? Are we taking a look? I was walking down 4th of July. The whole street of Wharton Avenue had weeds growing up on the strip, had weeds growing in front of the businesses. Where is the community at? So my main thing is about my wife, and I will see you. God bless you all.
Thank you. Come to the,
Yeah, I'll talk to you.
Robert Sauls, 40 Providence Road. Just wanted to thank the borough and the engineer for all you guys have done to improve Providence Road. As a lot of you know, the speed humps were installed last Friday, and I know there are a lot of concerns coming into that. People thought they'd be too loud, they might be too low, they're really gonna work. Well, I'll present to you the results. So far, many people are slowing to a safe speed, 15 miles an hour or less, as the signs are showing. The residents have noted that there's no additional noise, there's no rattling, there's no shaking, and occasionally you do get a little bit of a fast driver, but I think as the driver behavior improves and they go through there, it's gonna get quieter, it's gonna get slower. They're not gonna have as many morons cruising over the humps. And the police, I believe one of the neighbors notified me that they were ticketing people for speeding on the road and going over the humps too fast. So thank you for doing that as well. I just wanted to give you a couple of quotes, some feedback. Number one, somebody said it was a definable, noticeable change and they're really, really happy. Number two, a brand new resident across the street was absolutely thrilled. August said, it's like waking up on Christmas morning. And another neighbor who was skeptical said the speed humps have greatly helped, and I was skeptical at first. They slow down the cars and provide an overall safer road. I'm very thankful. We appreciate all that Morgan's done. So even though the improvements are not complete, there's still a few signs and paper markings that need to go on the road. The change is already profoundly different. So I think, if I can switch my notes here. I know some people were skeptical of the recommendations from the engineering study and didn't believe it was going to work, but as many of us can attest in the audience, the proof is in the pudding. And we brought some of our neighbors and our kids tonight. They've already been outside a lot more this week and over the weekend. And they just want to say thank you for making our streets safer by leaps and bounds. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I've been by there twice now this weekend. Yeah, my observation is that the drivers that were driving in front of and behind me were able to navigate the bumps quite sensibly and with proper care. So. Yes, young man. Can we have your name and your address for the record?
Jacqueline Jane Grove, 937 Providence Road, on 32.
Okay.
Now, our street is being and this is Brixton Jane Grove, 937 Providence Road.
Okay.
You can step around.
Yeah, you can come. You can come around so we can see. And young Mr. Fiorentino, your name and address for the record, please. I didn't hear it.
Sammy Fiorentino, I live on 32 Providence Road.
Thank you. Let the record show that these three young people are presenting counsel with cards.
Thank you so much.
Great kids.
And I can say this is the first time in my 12 years that we've gotten thank you cards, especially let alone ones as nicely done as these. So, Mr. Lillycraft, have you ever gotten a card in your many years?
It would show all the spell apart.
Thank you. Anybody else like to address council? Seeing no one at this time, Mrs. Hott.
So I don't know if it was for safety or specifically for Mrs. Lucino, but on that same note, I was just wondering about, I'd love to replicate this on that street, so I was wondering about the most recent speed study that was done at the end of June. And
We have that on
report
file.
was not- Okay, so just gonna make up and I can get the report.
All right, anyone else to address council? Mr. Josh Fiorentino.
32 Providence Road, 1.
Could you come up to the podium, please? And speak up for the camera, please.
I just want to thank everyone who helped contribute to making the speed bumps. It just means a lot to me and all my neighbors on 32 Providence Road. Many kids are now safe, and it just creates a better environment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing no one, I would just also commend the many young people that we had here for their patience and thank them and their parents for attending. And as we've said before, we expect this won't be the last time we see you, so please continue coming to the meetings and please help us out on one or another of our community committees if you can. Thank you. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, meeting adjourned.